Let's roll.
We are live. Main Joe. It's been far too long once again. But like I said last time, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
It's a marathon.
We're back. It's beautiful holiday weekend. Tomorrow's a holiday. You know, very excited for that.
Yeah, today was a beautiful day. Went for a nice walk.
Yeah. And Friday was a snowy, beautiful day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Those flakes coming down looked like skateboards, man. They were huge.
Yeah, they were awesome.
So, you know, Main Joe, we're on a streak here. We've had many great guests right in a row, and I don't know where to start with introducing our current one tonight. So I'm just going to start with her name, because her name is so cool right there. To Joe's audience, please welcome Amanda Maestro-Scherer to the podcast. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Amanda is, correct me if I say this incorrectly, she's a board-certified clinical music therapist. And that's going to be the main thrust of our podcast tonight, is talking about what is music therapy, how did it start, who practices it, what benefits does it bring to young and old alike, and how prolific is it? What are some of the roadblocks to making music therapy programs happen in different hospitals around the world? So, again, welcome, Amanda.
Thank you.
And let me start with my first question.
Wait, before we get to that, we have someone else in the studio tonight.
Well, we have another. That's
Probably
right.
introduce her.
Yes, we should.
Hi.
She is going to go by the name Banjo tonight because she is such a wonderful musician. She plays the violin, the cello, and the banjo-lele. Is that what you...
That's correct.
You brought a banjo-lele to my home one night and showed me how to play it. That was...
Oh, it was so fun. It's so fun.
So, and she's going to be an integral part of our music
She's
therapy
also,
efforts.
musician. Bleh, can't speak. Marker. Musician. She plays violin, cello. Yeah, so definitely will be
her best
contributing.
instrument, though, I think, is her vocals, though.
Yeah,
she hypnotizes with her vocals.
When she misses a couple jams and then shows up, that's the thing that usually hits me the hardest. It's like, wow, we missed that. Yeah, truth.
That's so kind.
Yeah,
wow.
She's something else.
All right, let us begin.
So,
your questions,
I want to begin with a very pointed question for the only real music therapist in the room. And Maestro, is it required that you learn pretty much every instrument on the planet, at least somewhat proficiently?
That's a great question. So to become a board-certified music therapist, as part of the coursework, you have to demonstrate proficiency in guitar, voice, piano, and percussion. So those are kind of the bare minimum.
Baseline fundamentals.
Right. And a lot of music therapists have skills on top of that. A lot of music therapists might come into a program and maybe their first instrument was the violin, but they'll have to learn how to play the guitar and the piano and voice to become a music therapist.
So the answer is yes, then.
Yeah.
You have to learn pretty much everything.
I mean, the more that you're able to do musically, the more you have to offer your patients.
The more you can express.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing if this is a calling, you're going to want to learn as much as you can.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm kind of that way, and I know Banjo is that way. She wants to learn every instrument under the sun. Yeah, so that's cool.
So, what was your first instrument that you? I'm not going to say mastered because I know you have humility there. But what was your first or favorite instrument?
My very first instrument was actually the violin.
Amazing! Wow. How old were you?
I think I was maybe 7 when I first started taking lessons. And it was always kind of a love-hate relationship for me with the violin. I feel like when I discovered the guitar, that kind of really clicked for me because I wanted to sing and I wanted to write my own songs. So when I discovered the guitar in high school, it kind of just clicked. It became an extension of myself. And the violin, I haven't touched it in years. I feel horrible, but
it's okay.
No,
it's there when you need it.
Yes.
It's there. She's waiting. She will welcome you back.
Oh yeah.
I hope so.
And Banjo's there to cover your tracks, so if you didn't need any help. So, well, that's awesome. What do you find your patients, your music therapy patients respond to most? Piano, guitar, violin? Does it vary?
That's a great question. It really varies. It's very individualized for the person. But
is it also mood-based as well? I mean, because
it can be. Yeah, it can be. I use the guitar most in my clinical work for a variety of reasons. One, because it's really portable. I can get up close to bedside with a person. It also, as an accompaniment instrument, obviously, when you're singing a patient-preferred song, for example, and I feel like there's also a lot of cultural significance with the guitar.
Yes.
Yeah. That really, pulls people in, and it depends on the population that you're working with, though. If a music therapist that's working primarily with teenagers, they might be using more electronic music and technology to recreate music or pull the kids into creating music in a session. So it really kind of depends. And it depends on what you're trying to achieve, what your clinical goal is.
Yeah. Whether like end of life or anxiety reduction or whatever the setting is. Yeah.
Right.
Before we get too far in, attention spans aren't that long. And so I wanted to do a quick shout out to Maestro's, her company, what you started recently. You and I met up at Primary Children's Hospital. And since then, she has left and she started her own music therapy business, if you will.
Yeah.
Would you like to speak to that? Give us the name of it. When did you start it? And what do you do?
And how to find it,
How to find it,
So my business is called Maestro Music Therapy. I just figured I needed to use my last name.
Beautiful, yeah.
Because it really is my last name.
I know. Yeah, I want to talk about that.
So great.
We'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah.
It's called Maestro Music Therapy, and I have, throughout my career, I've been practicing as a music therapist since 2007, and I've worked with adolescents. I've worked in hospice care, hospice and palliative care, end of life, in pediatric medical settings. So I have a really wide range of experience, also with children with special needs and adults with special needs. So with my practice, I am available and open to take patients. And
what is the .com?
MaestroMusicTherapy.com.
Yes. Please, listeners, check her out.
And the link in the description box below. I'll put a link to it.
Indeed. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. So, next question then. I've got a million flooding my head. Would you share with us some personal experiences that you've had as a music therapist? What is maybe your favorite experience?
Oh my gosh.
With a child, with an old person, with an addict, or whoever?
Yeah, give us an example of kind of how it works.
Yeah, it's hard to pick just one.
And of course, don't use any names, but a location and
So one of the things that comes up first, thinking about that, I'm currently working in hospice care, and for people who don't know, hospice is a service that's provided when a person has a prognosis of 6 months or less to live. And music therapy in hospice care, we oftentimes will be doing pain management, comfort support,
family support, maybe?
Family support, absolutely. Family support, working with caregivers, because that's stress for a caregiver to care for someone who is dying is very stressful. So music therapy can oftentimes come in, work with the caregivers, work with the patient, and legacy is a huge part of what we can do in hospice. And that can be through songwriting. That can be through...
writing originals then? For this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It can be through recording the patient singing and preserving that. It can be through sometimes putting together a musical autobiography and having the patient look back through their life and tell the story of their life through the music that has been important to them through their life.
The story of their life from birth to through all
what
the
are songs that you remember your
yeah.
mother singing to you when you were little? And
so that's not just like writing an original song and giving it to them on a DVD or something. That is a compendium.
Absolutely,
you're doing a lifetime thing. Wonderful.
Yeah, and these are things that we work with our patients to create so that they have something that they can leave behind when they pass.
And so your favorite then?
So a story that comes up that I am thinking of, I have one patient who I've been working with for quite a while, about a year now, and she wanted to create a song to tell her children how she feels about them. And that is something that I think, we might not realize how little we do with our loved ones, how little we actually actively tell somebody, really how you feel.
Or if you do,
I
mean, like in my family, we say we love you all the time, but gosh, coming in a song form would be much more impactful and, wouldn't take it for granted kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then you think about, having something to leave behind.
Yeah.
So from that lens, knowing that, she's going to die in the next few months probably, we created this song together. She was able to tell me how she feels about her children, and I recorded her talking. She's not able to sing at this point.
Was she able to talk though?
Yeah, she can. She can still talk. And so I was able to record her talking, and so I put that into the song. So I took her words and turned them into lyrics, and we created the song together. And
is there anything you can share, like a title of a song or a lyric or something?
I think it was just called My Children.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Wow.
Yeah. And she went through and we had a verse for each of her children. And it was just this very special way for her to be able to express how she was feeling in this moment in time. Yeah. And for them too, when she was able to play it for them, to have this memory and this artifact, if you will, of their mother that they can keep after she passes away. It's really special.
That defines the term sentiment.
Yeah.
Were you there for the playing of it for the children?
No. So actually, she wanted to play it for them on Christmas. Cool. So she played.
This just happened.
Did she do it?
Yeah.
Did it happen?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You didn't see a recording of it or anything? Did you?
So I gave her the recording.
And did she tell you how it went, or did she share with you?
Yeah. And her children also told me how special it was for them.
Therapeutic for her, the woman who helped you write the song, and then for the children.
Yeah.
Angel, I'm a little broken up right now, man.
It's
some great stuff.
What a service you are doing.
What a way to dedicate your life and career.
Amazing.
Is there anything more noble?
Yeah. Wow. The power of music
truly
too.
Rewarding.
Yeah.
It sounds so rewarding.
Yeah, it really is. And also just to be able to use music, which for me is so personal, and has been very healing for myself, throughout my life. Yeah. And to be able to help other people access that creativity that they have inside themselves. To be able to.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot at the Two Joes podcast.
Yes.
How being creative is such a essential part of having a happy, healthy life.
Yeah. Happy and healthy. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Maestro, how many songs would you say you have written?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know.
I mean, we're dozens or hundreds or in.
Yeah, probably.
Really?
I don't even know. I mean, in terms of legacy songs. Maybe in the hundreds. I don't know.
Wow.
a lot.
Wonderful. I almost wrote my first one. I've got half of it done.
You?
Half, yeah. Well, I'm down in Key West. I got a lot of spare time.
Yeah.
So I whipped out a pen and started writing some stuff down, and then I looked it up. It is cool.
I can't wait to hear it. Seriously.
Well, I looked up on Google, and it's already been. The title is taken. So
darn it!
Wow.
That doesn't really matter, though.
Yeah,
There's
doesn't.
lots of songs out there.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm going to give it an original title, like Peanut Butter Falcon.
Yeah.
So more on Maestro then. let's get a little personal then, if we could. Where were you born and raised?
So I was born in Ithaca, New York, and that's where I grew up.
Okay. Moved away at what age?
I was 17 or 18 right after high school. Okay. And I went to did my undergrad at Berklee College of Music in Boston.
Berklee?
They've got a great music therapy program there. Yeah. And I guess just a little backstory how I discovered music therapy. In high school, I played the guitar and was writing my own songs. I knew that I wanted to go into music, but I also knew that I wanted to performance wasn't really my thing. It didn't really fill me up. And so I wanted to work more closely with people, but I thought that music education was really kind of the only route.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's all that I really knew.
We're aware of,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I spent summers, we would go and visit my grandmother, my dad's mom, and she had dementia. And
is that the photo I saw of you playing guitar?
Maybe.
You were leaning over her and singing to her.
Oh, yes, yep, that's
God,
my grandma.
that was something
yeah.
else,
So we would go and visit her, and as the dementia progressed, she would, forget who we were. She even forgot who my dad was, but we would sit down at the piano together and we would play music, and she would remember.
Your grandma with dementia would play music with you?
Well, she would sing with me. She would sing with me.
She would remember the lyrics to the music.
Dementia couldn't touch the music then.
Exactly.
It couldn't touch it.
Exactly. She would remember the lyrics to these songs, and we would have a really strong and powerful connection. Again, it didn't matter that she didn't know who I was or how I was related to her. It was because it was through the music that we were able to connect again. Yeah. And I also saw how that impacted my whole family in those moments. And also I was like, there's something happening in her brain that she is able to recall these lyrics when everything else has fallen away. So that was kind of my first personal experience with music being very powerful.
How old were you when this first
I was
hit
in
you?
high school.
High school.
Yeah. And so then when I heard the words music therapy put together, I was like, what?
Boom.
Right? It was like,
nice.
I was just struck by lightning. It was amazing. And so I realized that was actually a career, and I could go into music therapy and learn how to
not just earn a living,
that.
but help a lot of people.
Right.
Would you speak to us for a few moments on what is the training required? What does the state require as far as licensure and things like that? So
you have to have a degree in music therapy. So there are bachelor's programs across the country, and so within the coursework, like I said, there are musical requirements. There are also clinical requirements. So you have to take therapy courses. You also have to understand how the brain and the body respond to music. So there's a lot within the training that is crammed into the 4 years of undergraduate work, in addition to practicum. So you're going out to clinical sites, and you're being supervised by a music therapist who is then helping train you clinically. So each practicum site might be a different population. So in my undergrad, I worked with kids with special needs in a I'm trying to remember, it's been so long, at a mental health facility. I also had a research practicum and then a medical practicum. So because music therapy is this really broad degree, you graduate with you could really get a job in any population. And so the idea with the practicums and the internship is that you're learning what specifically is needed for each population, so, if that makes sense.
It doesn't. To me, it doesn't. Okay. But when you say how broad it is, that's what I'm going to focus on. Is then you use the word practicum a number of times there. So
the practicums are like the clinical placements within the coursework. So that might be
internships, kind of.
They're like mini internships, and then
specialty training. Is that a way to? Okay.
Yeah. Well, so you're learning specifics for different populations.
It begs the question then. It seems the more training and discipline required to do any career, means that there is extra risk and danger and damage that could be done if you do it wrong.
Yeah.
So what could you do wrong in music therapy to damage a patient?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's a really great question. I think that a lot of times people think that music is harmless, but it's not, because just as much as you can have a very positive experience with music, it can also trigger a lot of really
negative stuff,
emotions.
Yeah, okay.
So, for example, working with a person with dementia, there might be a song that triggers a very specific time in their lives that they maybe had a traumatic event. And so as a therapist, because we're trained as therapists too, we know how to use music to help work through an experience like that. So
how do you know what songs to avoid, though?
Well,
that's part of the assessment process.
So, okay. I was going to say, do you stick to more original stuff and just jamming without having any particular song in mind,
Sometimes.
Just play a few chords in a row. And, okay.
I mean, improvisation is actually a huge thing that we do in music therapy, too.
But you can't avoid, there's no way you could avoid a song that would trigger them. I mean, sometimes that must just happen.
You play some Glenn Miller and they go bananas, they just bounce off the wall.
I mean,
it might trigger something like they were abused to this song by some creep or something, and that would be bad.
Right.
So you have to know how to respond to that if it happens.
Absolutely.
Well, as you said, it's part of the assessment then. How long does the assessment take? Are there certain protocols?
It's kind of constant.
It's ongoing.
You're constantly watching for how your patient is responding to what music you're playing, how they interact with the music, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it depends on the population too. There are a lot of nuances, and that's the difference between a music therapist and a performer. The performer will come in and have the set list that they play. The music therapist, because it's clinically driven, you're considering what outcome you're trying to achieve. So you're going in with your clinical goals with your patient. So that might be.
Do these goals differ then? What am I trying to achieve?
Absolutely.
Tomorrow, 13-year-old Teresa's having surgery, and I just want to lessen her anxiety. Right. Edith over here is going to be dead in a month, and I want to lessen her anxiety. Is it all about lessening anxiety then?
It really depends. I mean, a lot of people are dealing with anxiety.
Sure.
So I think, that oftentimes is, if that's not necessarily the primary goal that you're targeting, that's something that happens for a lot of people, particularly in medical settings, like you mentioned. Anxiety can be a goal that you're addressing. It can be, it could be pain management. It could just be helping them express themselves in a way that they feel like they're being heard.
I remember one story when I was volunteering up there, and there was a 13, 14-year-old young man who was in for like 2 weeks for some condition. I forget. But what I do remember was they would play some soft, soothing acoustic music for him, and it didn't help. It even seemed to hurt. He seemed to become more agitated and just more uncomfortable. And then his mom suggested, no, play this heavy, this sledgehammer on your neck rap song. And as soon as they did, he was at ease. Okay, this is my deal right here. So this is what you're trained to recognize.
Absolutely, and that illustrates the importance of patient-preferred music too. I mean, because what makes you relax is going to be very different than what might make the next person relax. Classical music might make somebody really agitated. Heavy metal might make somebody, another person relax. So that's kind of the thing too with music therapy, is that we're not approaching things with like a blanket approach. It's not like you listen to this piece of Mozart and you will feel better. Like that is absolutely
that it works for everybody on the planet.
Right. Because that doesn't exist.
Right.
The way that we perceive music and the way that we have a history and connection with music differs for everybody throughout their life. So that's part of our job, to come in and look at the whole picture and how the person what the person needs from music and how we can play a part in that.
So when you were the music therapy director, do I get your title correct?
I was the team lead, yeah.
Team lead up at Primary Children's Hospital. So when you were up there, how did you delegate? I mean, you had 3 or 4 board-certified music therapists under your direction. How'd you delegate and say, okay, you know, XYZ, you go and play this song for them, and you go do this for them, and, you know.
Well, so when you have a team of music therapists, it's about divvying up the caseload. So then each person then is going in, and they're doing their assessments, and they're creating their treatment plan for the patient. So
they
all
bring
very
that assessment back to you, and then you discuss and find the best way forward.
I mean, we did a lot of peer support with that, but you know, each music therapist is really responsible for their own caseload and making sure that they're managing that and supporting the patients in the best way that they can. It's the same as, you know, if you think about like, you know, a hospice team, each person has their own thing that they're doing, that they're approaching. You have a social worker that's addressing this, and a music therapist that is coming in and addressing something different or supporting a goal. And so when you've got a team of music therapists, we were all working with different patients, and so we're, you know,
but you would
all
collaborate and talk about different patients, and okay, that's wonderful. Yeah. Mangel, where are we?
Oh, we're doing all right. We're at 26 minutes.
Well, that's a perfect break.
Not
right
bad.
there.
You want to take a break right there?
Yeah,
right.
I've already got like 8 more questions ready.
Yeah, I've got a few too,
Maestro.
but they can wait, and we'll be right back with Amanda Maestro.
Amanda Maestro-Scherer, MaestroMusicTherapy.com. Please check her out.
Thank you.